Thank you for joining me on the podcast. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rhea Davis. I own a business, Education Works, where I work with
Mm.
parents, coaching and advocating for students and families. So I work one-on-one with parents, and then I also go into schools and advocate as well.
Okay, so you were in a classroom as well. Is that correct?
So
Special
I,
education.
yes, I was a special education teacher and I went on to become RTI coordinator. And then I left teaching in the public school system to become an advocate. But I still really work heavily with school districts. And a lot of my goal when I'm advocating is to help give teachers resources too and give them
Yeah,
what they need to support students.
perfect. Can you tell us your experience as a special education teacher?
Yes, absolutely. So most of my experience has been in elementary schools. I have done self-contained behavior for middle school. I've done self-contained behavior for elementary school, a lot of co-taught inclusion work, and really just and also hospital homebound as well. I knew there was one more.
Okay. Okay, okay. And then so you're in special education, you're RTA coordinator. Can you explain the RTA? Because I don't think most people know what that is. So
Yes, absolutely. So RTI stands for response to intervention. So we're really looking to support kiddos and see where they need support and put interventions in place to try and close a learning gap. And it's part of a multi-tiered system of support. So every
Mhm.
student, there's RTI at work, no matter where we're at in the school,
Yeah.
but a lot of the uh, supports and interventions fall at a tier one level where it's things we're just doing school wide, things like PBIS to, support kiddos no matter where they fall.
Yeah. Okay. And so you're an RTI coordinator. And then you decide, you don't want to be in a school setting,
Mhm.
right? You decide you want to be in a school setting. Did you make the TikTok? Do you make the TikTok to say, I'm out of here? And do you do that whole move or?
So I didn't because I actually did not want to leave the school setting.
Oh
I
wow.
loved my job so much, so much. And I really loved working with teachers as an RTI coordinator. I coached teachers on how to provide these interventions, and I really really love my job. The reason that I
Yeah.
left was due to a scheduling situation. So it really had
Yeah.
nothing to do with the work or the students or the classroom. It was just kind of a logistics and contract sort of situation that wasn't able to be resolved. So then I ended
Yeah.
up getting, and really that's how my business started, because when I left, I said, I really don't want anyone to take something that I love so much away. And so I said,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just going to do it for myself, and that's what we're going to do. And so I still get to do what I love, and that's really how my business began.
And then you started your own business. Can you talk about that a little bit? That's pretty impressive.
Thank you. Yes, I
Yeah.
I really wanted to, because in the school system I would see so many families needing support for IEPs or even RTIs or other things that were going on.
Hmm.
And advocates were really, really expensive, to be
Right.
honest. And I
Hmm.
hated that it was this support was reserved for families that had, a lot of money to put into an advocate.
Hmm.
And I wanted to create programs that were made advocacy accessible for families,
Yeah.
and I wanted to provide services, and that's why I have that coaching piece, so that families that maybe couldn't, or maybe a traditional advocate wasn't in the budget, I have flexible options so that more families can feel empowered to speak up for their children and get them support.
So you saw the need when you're in the classroom, you're sitting in IEPs, and you're like, okay, this parent right here doesn't know what's going on. This parent doesn't know that, these resources are available to them, and so there's a need here. Is that how it went? That happened?
Absolutely. And also, I saw the need on the teacher's end too,
Yeah.
because with IEPs, there's so much, and
Mm.
there's a lot of if this then that. It's not
Yeah.
just straightforward when you're reading IDEA. So it was a need all around of just this neutral party to come in and say, okay, this is what I'm seeing. I'm not, heavily invested emotionally as a parent or a teacher. I'm just a third party. Let me look and tell you objectively where we need to go. And being able to provide that support to teachers too, and say, we need a behavior sheet. Okay, here you go. Here's a template we can use. And that just it really makes all the difference when everyone's on the same page and working as a team.
So let's talk more on the parent side. What do you notice most that parents just miss out on? Like they just don't know about this. They don't know about this, and they should know about this, but they don't.
I would definitely say there's a few different things. Evaluations would probably be one of my number one. You can request an evaluation at any time. You
Hmm.
don't have to wait for the school to say, "Hey, I think we need an evaluation." And in fact, I advocate for parents to go ahead and request one. If you're thinking
Yeah,
something's going on, go ahead. Early intervention is key. But also just being able to apply IDEA to your situation. And when I'm talking about IDEA, I'm talking about the laws regarding special education.
yeah,
And I see a lot of, I like to compare it to whenever I have like a shoulder pain and I Google and say, what's wrong with my shoulder? Now I have 15 different things that I could possibly have, and I'm worried and trying to
yeah.
figure out. Meanwhile, I just like hung a picture
Hmm.
and moved
Hmm.
my shoulder weird, you know?
Yeah,
And I see that a lot when parents are trying to Google how to fix my child's IEP goals. But Google
yeah.
doesn't know what the IEP goal is, or how what their
Hmm.
baseline is, or what the data says. There's only so much you can ask Google.
Yeah,
So even if it's not an advocate, finding that one key member of the IEP team that you can communicate with openly and you feel
yeah,
comfortable with, that's really going to be a key for any parent for success. Just to have somebody to bounce that off of, if that makes sense.
yeah. And so let's take that idea, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. So if all parents just write a letter and say, you know what, I want an IEP, then it overloads the system, right? Let's say you have a part-time psychologist who's only there at the school maybe twice a week, and that's the person that has to do all those IEPs. So let's say you went from a caseload of 40 IEPs, and now you got a caseload of, let's say you triple it, right? So it was 120. That's gonna be a problem.
Oh yeah,
That's gonna be
I
a problem.
agree.
Yeah.
As RTI coordinator, I helped a lot with that process and doing hearing and vision screenings, and working
Mhm.
through all the initial stuff and collecting the data. And that is, there's so many pieces to this,
Mhm.
but one of the biggest is parents having kind of an understanding of what their concerns are. So when I'm talking about advocacy work and I'm working with parents, I teach a 4-step advocacy framework. So the first step is to really figure out what's going on, what are our concerns, and then we want to get really really specific of, okay, what skills or areas do we need to target. So going from reading to letter sounds, figuring out the
Yeah.
specifics. And then looking at, okay, well, what could we maybe do to support this? And this is a parent, I'm not saying what are the test scores and the specific
Yeah.
interventions, just kind of really knowing what it is that you want the school to respond to, the concerns you
Mhm.
have. And then step 4 is to advocate. And so I, of course, any parent can request an evaluation at any
Yeah.
time, and it does
Mhm.
overload the system. But
Mhm.
you also, going into this process, kind of want to be aware of what what's this going to bring me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
If we're looking at an IEP, well, what area does my child need support in? And like I said, I know parents aren't going to have the specifics, with like data and reading scores and things like that,
Yeah.
but just really being able to articulate your concerns
Mhm.
alongside of requesting that evaluation can help with the overload in general, but also help the school, I don't want to say take you seriously, but really
Yeah.
understand that this is a need.
Yeah. I feel like let's go back to the system, right? So I think the school set up systems where there's a process before the IEP, right? There's a conversation before the IEP. In my district, it's called SSPT.
SST, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for us it's SSPT. I don't know what it is for you guys, but it's the process before where we meet with the parent, we meet with the teacher. It's not an official IEP, but we're meeting with the parent, we're setting goals, we're looking at data, and then 5 weeks down the line, we revisit again and we say, you know what, we've seen some improvement. we're gonna remain at a tier one or whatever. This is
Mm-hmm.
still tier one. It's not tier three yet. Tier one. If there's a need for like, okay, well, it looks like they're doing poorly, even worse than before. Move it up to tier two. Not quite yet at IEP. We got to hold off because we don't want to overload the system. We have one psychologist, our RSP teacher who does the minutes for reading, writing, and math. She's gonna
Mm-hmm.
get overloaded. So it's like this whole balance. It's this whole balance of how do we just maintain this system? That's kind of how it works at school, right?
And that there's so many parts to it. You did a great job at kind of just demonstrating all of the pieces
Yeah.
that go into it. And I think that is a lot of the hang up in our system is that when you have so many people and you have so many people that are responsible for different things, like I was talking about the hearing and vision and data
Hmm.
collection, and now we're at tier three and we're writing goals, and who is scheduling those SSPT meetings for you?
SSPTs for us, yeah.
And it was SST for us. Who's
Hmm.
scheduling those? Oh, admin had a meeting that day, so we're just going to move forward without them. But so and so's got to leave at 10 for this other thing, and that's where a lot of the issues lie. Is there's
Yeah.
so many moving pieces from so many different
Right.
people pulled in different directions.
So you mentioned you have in an IEP, you said something about behavior intervention plan. You said there's like you have a template, something like
Yes.
that to throw out there. Can you
So
explain that a little bit? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Behavior is what I've been passionate about my whole career. When I got my degree, I earned a dual degree in elementary and special education. So
Hmm.
we had internships for both, and I I want to give all the kudos in the world to general education teachers. And I know as a special educator, people always say like, "Oh, I could never, you're a saint," and things like that. I'm like, "Oh no, I could never do a general education classroom. I'm good at what I'm good at, and behavior is one of those things." But I just want to preface by saying, gen ed
Yeah.
teachers, I did not love that internship. But for the special education internship, we pretty much everyone was in just a co-taught situation, but we had the option of doing self-contained behavior. There was one placement that it was kind of like you can do it if you want to, and I wanted to, and it was amazing. And I just absolutely, ever since then, that has been what I've been passionate about.
Yeah.
And behavior intervention plans are a big part of that, right?
Yeah.
So I put together a program that's totally free. It's like a little mini course for parents that walks you through something called the FBA, and then using that to implement the behavior intervention plan, or the BIP.
Hmm.
And the FBA is a functional behavior assessment and analysis. So it's the data collection. Then we look at that data, and it can tell you so many things. And not enough educators are trained in this,
Hmm.
um, unfortunately, because it is so powerful, the data that you can get back. You
Hmm.
can tell, if there's certain times of day that a student is having stuff going. I mean, I've looked at functional behavior assessments and realized that certain teacher student pairings just were not working out. I've looked and realized that kids don't like kiwis. It was
Yeah.
every
That's
time
a trigger.
kiwis were
Kiwis are
served.
the trigger.
Those, little things you would never notice unless you
Yeah.
had that data. And it just paints such a beautiful picture, but in numbers, and you get so
Hmm.
objective. And from that, the supports that you can implement, it's instead of saying, well, I don't know, maybe a break will work, or maybe we can try a visual schedule, or maybe we'll do this too. Oh no, at 2 p.m. every single day, this child will need a break for 15 minutes because that is
Yeah.
the time of day. I mean, it makes all the difference. And
It
when parents
does.
learn how to use that information, that's powerful.
It does. It does. The only problem with that, and I hate to play devil's advocate again,
Oh,
but
I know. I
it's
already know.
it's time consuming.
It
It's
is.
time consuming, and who's gonna do it?
Oh, yep.
That's
I
that's
know.
the part. That's the part that's like, okay, we all know this student right here needs a FBA, and okay, now who's gonna do it? Who's
Exactly.
gonna do it? Because I know the kid, and I feel like if I know the kid, then maybe I shouldn't be the one because I already have a relationship with him. So if I'm walking in the room, that might affect his normal routine, his normal activity. So we need to get a neutral party to come out there who doesn't know him, who's just like a fly in the wall
Mhm.
and collects the data.
First,
But the
I
only
just have to say, I love that you're thinking like that, because So a lot of people don't think about, okay, well, he's going to notice when I walk in the room
Yeah,
or things
yeah,
like that. It's, things that you just, you
yeah,
just know when
yeah.
you've been in the, yeah,
That's right. Because like most kids, I'm good with. Most kids, we're me and that kid, we have good relationships. So if I walk in the room, we're good. We're
yeah.
good. There's not gonna be too many problems. They might say hi to me. They might want to talk to me, but that's about it. They're not gonna be throwing stuff around and acting up. Because I'm in the room. And that's why I feel like you would need a neutral party, right? Somebody that doesn't know the child, doesn't know the teacher, doesn't know the dynamics of the classroom, just walks in. But again, the only problem is, where is that neutral party coming from? Where does
Well,
this
that neutral party can also trigger as well, because who's this random person in the room,
right?
you know?
Another example. Yes.
So there's a few different things. It really depends. If it's a student that has an IEP, you might and we're now doing the FBA. There's a few more resources available because you've got that special education team that can help a little bit more. That's
Hmm.
not saying that we, have the
Yeah.
resources all the time to do it. I know this is not traditional, I guess you would say, but things like Class Dojo or things that you can track
Yeah.
on a neutral system. You can set the point to zero instead of like a
Hmm.
negative or a positive. I've
Yeah.
had teachers that where I'm like, okay, we can't do an ABC. I mean, I get it. We can't. But can we do this? Can we at least do some what's happening before and after the behavior? Can we just
Yeah.
start with something and then we can hopefully, get that neutral party and get RBT or BCB, somebody coming in. But until we can do that, let's look at creative solutions of how we can
Yeah.
at least get something to go on. Because from
Yeah.
there, then we can improve. We can at least put something in place, see, okay, it's not working, we can move forward. But we got to figure something out. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. So how do you deal with teachers who are like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I don't want to. I don't want to put this together. You know what? I'm fed up with the student. I'm tired of the student. Student never listens anyway. Even if we put something together anyway, you asked me to do this class dojo stuff. It's just not gonna work anyway. So
I,
that's a
I
real
hear that all
attitude.
the time. I've heard
That's
that.
a real attitude, right?
It is.
That's real, right?
It
It's a
is.
real
I've
attitude.
heard it. And have a few different responses. It really just depends on the educator and kind of, what sort of relationship we might have had or that kind of
Hmm.
thing. And knowing them kind of informs how I'll approach it. But essentially, if it's that educator, it's like the student doesn't belong in here. I already know that. Why do I have to go through all this? Well, if you really truly deep down inside your teacher's spider senses or whatever they're tingling saying this is not the placement, then we have to have data for anyone to take
Right.
us seriously. We
That's right.
That's just, and it's kind of like, go through 10 days of data collection and then we can actually have solutions
That's right.
instead of dragging this out all year, and that's kind of the approach that I tend towards. But if that doesn't work, I'll usually say, okay, well, there's something called Child Find, and we're obligated to provide,
Yeah.
support to students and, go that route more with the legal ramifications of it. But I like to really think we all want to support that student. So
Yes.
that's my
Yes.
goal.
Assume positive intentions, right?
Exactly.
That's right. You had mentioned, when you fill out the thing, behavior management. That's your thing. That's your thing.
Yeah.
Um, if I'm a teacher or an educator that has poor classroom management, how would you help me?
So I would first want to know what grade level you would be in.
So let's say I teach fourth grade.
Fourth grade. Okay.
Fourth grade. So,
So,
mhm.
yeah, so fourth grade students, they're probably not going to respond as well to the like class, yes, yes,
Yeah,
put your
no
finger on
way.
the nose. That stuff works well. That's why I wanted to ask.
Good point.
So, anytime you have that whole group buy in is good, but the older students, it's going to be a little bit different. And they are starting to get to the age where they're not going to openly say, I'm really sad today or I'm really happy. It's going to maybe
Hmm.
take a little bit. They want a little more privacy, I guess, of that kind of stuff at that age. So I
Yeah.
like little stickers where teachers can have a relationship with students and kind of check in with them using like color coded stickers, on the corner of their desk
Mm-hmm.
where it's like this thing where you can communicate with your teacher. The whole class doesn't need to know that you're angry today or whatever, something like that. I also, Universal Design for Learning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
UDL.
that is that the framework for UDL. It's been my background on my computer. I love it. I give it to teachers
Yeah.
constantly because when you can create a classroom that is inclusive for everyone and really gives options, and you are working with the students as like, hey, this is our shared space. This is, I value and respect you as much as you should value and respect me. Like we're in this together, and that really goes a long way. And that
Yeah.
UDL framework gives you options, and helps them feel like they have autonomy over their.
Mm-hmm. So I have a student. Let's just say I have a student who wants to just always get up in the classroom, always walking around, always like tapping other students and bothering other students and taking another student's pencil and then going back to my seat. And then maybe I elope sometimes. Maybe I just walk. The student just walks out of the classroom. How would you help that teacher?
So with that teacher, I would.
And this is fifth grade now. We'll bring it up fifth grade, fifth, sixth grade. Let's just say.
Okay, so you've actually reminded me of one student that I had a really great relationship with, but very, very similar situation, right?
Mhm.
Tapping kids, taking pencils, walking out. And a big thing with him and in this situation is the relationship.
That's
But I
right.
also want to recognize that's you don't have 45 minutes to sit and play like a game of checkers with a kid every day. You don't.
That's correct.
It's the little teeny things like when they come in the morning, remembering little things like when their birthday is, or they got a new pair of shoes, noticing they got a haircut. Just those little interactions build up over time. You're
Yeah.
putting building into their bucket, or whatever the phrase.
Depositing coins in the bank account.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so part of it is that. Now, there are going to be students, let's take the walking around the room, right? And then there's the eloping of leaving the classroom, hopefully not leaving the building, but it could get to that point.
Hmm.
So what I would ideally, work with the student, obviously it's kind of a conversation sort of thing. So I'm kind of feeding off of what they're giving me. But I would give a choice and say, if you want to get up, if you feel like you have to walk around, I get that. That's totally fine. And you can do that. Let's not disturb other kids though. So if
Yeah.
you're going to do that, let's do it, and I haven't done this with older students, but if there's a student that just needs to move and they just need to walk, I'll take like a colored piece of duct tape and put it from one end of the back wall to the other end so
Hmm.
they know like, okay, I can just walk up and down this. I've put hopscotch, taken like vinyl and cut it out and done hopscotch on my floors and things like that.
Yeah.
So kids, and the way that I have my classroom set up now, I only really pulled small groups in there, but we had one big circle table and couches and bean bags, and if you can sit and work with a clipboard, then you can pick where you can choose. Or pick where you can choose. You can pick where you.
Yeah. I get it. We get. Yeah.
Yes, but I think choice and just giving, when you give options, don't give an option that you don't want them to choose.
Yeah.
Give two options that you're totally fine with. And
Hmm.
now they feel like they have some control. And a lot of times students like that, they want control, right? They're
Yes, they
trying
do.
to, they're moving around, they're trying
Hmm.
to get attention. So give them some, let them lead too. That's another
Yeah.
really good option. Hey man, do you want to click the slides for my lesson? And that really, you can see their
Yeah.
face light up when that happens. And it's really.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like when I was a classroom teacher, and I do it right now as an administrator, but I'm if I when I was a classroom teacher, when I pick up the students, I'm already working the line. Like I'm picking up the kids and I'm walking back to class, but I'm working the line. I'm like, hey, good morning, good morning. Hey, I like your shoes. Hey, cool shirt. Hey, did you guys watch that game? And I'm just like
Mhm.
working it,
Oh,
trying to
how
get
was
a
the soccer
feel.
game Tuesday? Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm just getting a feel. Like this is what it's about. This is how I see that face right there, and I'm just getting a feel and I'm just trying to connect.
Yeah.
And they come in my classroom and you have to make sure your systems are in place. You have to make sure that you have
Yes.
a good systems, because if you don't have a good if the kids don't know that when they walk from this point to that point then they stop, and then they walk from this point to that point they stop, you've already messed up. If they're
Oh
just
yeah.
running through the hallways, that's how your day is gonna go. If you just allow them to just like, okay, I'm gonna run through, guess what? What's gonna happen in the classroom? Exact
You've
same
already
thing.
broken that system. Yep.
Yes. So from right there, you got to get that system, how they walk in, how they put their backpacks away, how they sit down. That has to happen. That you have to have great systems, right? And then at our school, we have breakfast in the classroom. So they have breakfast in the classroom. So, what's the system for that? Who sets it up? What tables get to go first?
What do you do when
All
there's
of that.
cereal still in the milk?
Yes.
You have a strainer. What if there's
Hmm.
a spill? Where, yep, yep.
That's right. That has to be like on point.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all of those systems need to be put in place. And then for me, when I first was in the classroom, it was just checking in. So the first 10 minutes or so, we would eat or whatever, then it was just checking in, and I would say, all right, guys, we're about to start ELA, but if you don't want to start right now, we could talk for about 10 minutes and then we'll start. What do you guys want to do? And of course,
Of
oh, let's
course, I
talk,
want
let's
to talk.
talk.
Right.
Of course, let's talk. All right,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Let's talk. And I always say, does anybody have anything to share about anything?
Yeah.
And then they're like, last night I went to a laundromat and I found 2 quarters on the floor. Oh, that's good. You found 2 quarters. What did you do with those 2 quarters? Oh, you bought some. There was like a little machine and you were able to buy. Oh, cool. Anybody else have anything to share? Yeah, this morning I went and I got, whatever. And that's how we'd start our morning. Just checking in, talk. Let's, set up this whole environment where we could share about our lives without being criticized. It's
Yes.
a safe place. It's a safe place. And then we start. I think that's super important. That needs to be done in every classroom. But I
Oh,
feel
I
like it's
totally
not.
agree. It's not. It's
It's
not.
not.
But if you think about it, I mean, as educators, I know that general education and special education are two very different training wise, coming into the profession. But no matter what, we all learn about the hierarchy of needs. We
Yes,
know that kids got to eat, kids got to
that's
feel
right.
safe, kids got to, have enough sleep to be
That's
able to
right.
attend. And I think that our schedules can be so packed and we can just
Hmm.
speed right into things. And I know we have to get it done. I know how tight that schedule is, and we don't have a lot of transition time. And those systems, though, will keep you moving. Um, but, but it's almost like the rest of the day is not anywhere near as meaningful if you're not taking the time to talk to them like people instead of just
Yeah,
students, children and people that you're connecting with. So
yeah,
I love that time in the morning.
yeah. I feel too to have a good classroom environment. Whenever we had like a major problem, when I was a classroom teacher, we'd stop everything. We would stop everything. It was like, okay, stop.
Let's
Push
hash
your
it
desk
out.
back. Let's right here. Circle up. Let's go. Let's go. Let's make a circle. All right, cool. And we're in a circle, and it's never about the problem first. It's like, all right, we're here. How you guys doing? You guys all right? Cool. Let's go ahead and let's just snap together. We're all gonna snap together. I know it's silly. We're all gonna snap together. Here we go. One, two, three. All right, we almost did. All right, hold on. We're almost there. We're almost one, two,
Mhm.
and we just that's what we do.
Yeah.
Then I'd ask a silly question. And it had nothing to do with the problem. Then we'd feel comfortable and then be like, all right, let's talk about it.
Mhm.
She lost her set of markers. Somebody in this classroom took it. Somebody in this classroom took it, and it happened, right? And so let's talk about how are we gonna get her markers back.
How are we
And
going to move
so
forward? Yes.
yes, yeah, and we would do that. And at first it was a lot of that. You're in August, you're in September, you're in November, you're doing that a lot. You're like, all right, let's but once you start going, once you got it all set up, and you don't have to do it so much. It doesn't have to be that big thing anymore. You solve problems quicker and faster because the
Yes.
kids know already. And that I feel like that is not being done in the classroom. I don't see circles. I walk into classrooms as an administrator. I don't see circles. People think it's a joke. Like circles, restorative justice, restorative practices. That doesn't work. That's a joke.
I
Did you
know.
see that? I don't know.
But so not only you mentioned, once we get it, we're good. Things are being solved faster. We've got these skills. We've got these systems for connecting with each other in the classroom. And it is so, I know it seems fluffy sometimes for teachers, but not only are they getting the routine of it, but they're getting the skills. of conflict
Mhm.
resolution and
Yes.
of empathy and kindness and compassion and teamwork. And they're seeing their classroom environment not just like, this is my desk, this is my stuff, my teacher,
Mhm.
this is my community. And that's
Yeah.
what they're going to take with them into the community, those skills that you're teaching with that circle time. And
Yeah.
I think we kind of glaze over that very quickly and easily. But if we really truly understood how important it was, I think more classrooms would be
Yeah.
implementing
And
that.
I think classroom teachers feel like, that they really have their focus is academics. Their focus is academics and testing and test scores. And that's what they have to get through the curriculum. And I have
You gotta
five
get through
weeks to
that
get through
map.
these five,
Hmm.
yeah, these standards, and then we're gonna have a test, and that's that pressure that you get put upon you, and then that's where things kind of fall apart. You're missing the social emotional part. That's huge. If you don't take care of the social emotional part, then all the standard you're trying to get through curriculum, the social emotional part is going to override all of that. Like if the kids aren't right in the classroom, your teaching is like you're teaching on deaf ears. They're not even listening. They're not. Their minds are on other things, and it's
They're
not
not
good.
connected. They're
They're
not
not
tuned
connected.
in. Hmm.
That's
I
right.
Yeah. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really like to think of it. I mean, I think I'll speak for myself, but I've definitely woken up past my alarm before, and
Mhm.
I've woken up and said, "Oh my gosh, I've got to leave in 5 minutes," and just thrown some things on. I'm rushing around. I forgot my lunch. I don't have this. I can't find my keys. It's so frazzled. Then you get to work and it's frazzled some more because your morning started like that, and your whole day just everything's going wrong.
Yeah.
And that's essentially the same thing as just diving in that same feeling that you have when you're frazzled in the morning because you didn't, have the time to wake up and get yourself ready and tune
Mhm.
into your day. That's exactly how students are going to feel when we're not giving them time to tune into their setting and what we're getting into.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, I'm big on classroom management, and I'm big on relationship building. I feel like you have to build relationships with students. I think that's so huge. And you have to build relationships with students with difficult behavior. A lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people want to write those kids off, want to send them away, want to over punish them. They deserve to get, whatever, have their parents sit in the classroom. Let's embarrass them and have their parents in the classroom. Let's, and maybe in some cases that you might have to for safety reasons. That might have to happen, but not all the time, right? Um, and they just write these students off. Let's suspend them. Let's send them home to their parents, and like all these things, right? And um, that to me is like the wrong attitude, in my opinion. My thing is, let's build relationship with students with difficult behavior. Can we build relationship with them? Because once we got them, once they're on our side, now there's no stopping us. This classroom, that's it. We got me and this person, we're good. So we're gonna roll now. We're gonna roll. And I don't think that people understand that, or they don't want to take the time, or maybe they don't know how to do it. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a combination. I think it's one of those things where you are a teacher, you're focused on academics and the curriculum and getting through everything, right? And then it's like this thing that is getting in your way of doing what you've got to do. And I'm not saying that we should look at students like that, but I think that it kind of can feel like that
Hmm.
sometimes.
Hmm.
And so you know that you need to just stop and take a deep breath, and maybe you could build that relationship with that student. But so much time has gone by, things have happened, you're already flustered, right? Things are already, and a lot of teachers, I think, in this situation, this is just from coaching teachers, I'm not saying this is every teacher, but I think sometimes we have stuff that we carry with us, from our childhood and our education, and sometimes it's really hard not to take it personally when kids
Yeah.
have difficult behavior. I mean, I've definitely been called some names, I've gotten some
Hmm.
injuries. It's happened.
Hmm.
But I can step back from that and look at the situation objectively and see this child had a really rough night. Without going into specifics of any situations that I've had, I can objectively see that, like, this is not about me at all.
Yeah.
And this is still a child. this is
Mhm.
still someone's baby. This is
Mhm.
someone who has big emotions and doesn't really know how to handle those. And I
Yeah.
think when you can take that perspective and shift it, you're able to build that connection, because if until you can shift that perspective, it's going to be really hard to build a connection, because there's still going to be a wall there whether you want it to be or not. But
Yeah.
once you can look beyond that behavior, you can really start to see them as a person and understand what's driving that behavior, realize it's not about you, and then be that person that can actually support them and
Yeah.
give them what they need, and be a sometimes there's stuff going on at home. They might not feel safe where they're at home, and
Yeah.
you might be that safe person for them to talk to. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot that's behind it, and I want more educators to understand that that's a person too. You
Yeah.
don't always know.
Like early on in my career, I was teaching middle school, and this is where I learned this lesson. It was like this one kid would always come late to school all the time. He would just come late, like 10, 15 minutes late all the time, every day. And then one day he was like 50 minutes late. There was like 5 minutes left in the period. He shows up, and I looked at my watch, and I was like, you might as well show up for the second period. I don't even know why you're here now. And he's like, Mister, I want to be here. And I was like, well, you showed up so late. It doesn't seem like you want to be here. He's like, my sister was sick. He goes, my sister was sick last night, and she was sick, and my parents leave to work about 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm the one that walks, my little sister to school every single day. And so that's why I'm late to your class, about 10 or 15 minutes late, because I walk my sister to school because it's unsafe. And then I walk to school here. That's why I'm 10 or 15 minutes late to your class. He says, but last night she was sick, and so my parents leave. I wake up, I feed her, I know she's sick. I'm like, I have to take her back to my parents. So I get on the bus, go to downtown LA, not a safe place, drop my sister off, take a bus back, uh come back, and I want to be in your class, but I'm 50 minutes late. I'm sorry. And I'm like,
Oh
ah.
gosh, I'm so sorry.
uh, I was like, never again. I go, I'm never gonna assume this, I'm never going to assume that this kid is intentionally just not wanting to be in my class, intentionally being 10 or 15 minutes. Like, I should have asked him. I should have asked him a long time ago why you're 10. I was just upset. I was like, give him a dirty look. Go ahead, take a seat, go over there, and be this tough teacher. Like, and now I was young. I was in my early 20s. And, you know, I think back, and that changed my perspective. Like, there's more going on at home that we don't even know. We don't know what's going on at home. We did they sleep? Do they live in a place? For me, any little noise wakes me up, and then I'm like, oh, I can't go back to sleep. If you live in like a 8-story apartment building with paper thin walls,
And you're
are you?
downtown, and there's yeah.
Yeah, are you sleeping? Like, are you sleep? Are you? Do you get good sleep? Do you get good nutrition? I don't know. I
Right.
don't. Yeah. All these factors play in the part. And like, I just feel like we just can't assume that we know what's going on at home. And we just got to show them love and caring and treat them as if they were our own children. Like, this kid right here is me. This kid right here is my child. I'm going to treat him like that, and I'm gonna treat him with respect. I'm gonna set high standards. I'm gonna draw some lines, and you know what? You can't cross this line, but I
Share
love you, and I'm
boundaries.
gonna lift you up. Yeah, and that's what we got to do.
Mhm. Oh,
So,
I've I've seen so many situations like that where there's a student, you don't know what's going on, right? I mean, none of us
mhm.
can, and then you learn what's going on. You're like, oh my goodness, no wonder, And I also there's a lot of people online that, and this is a big pet peeve when teachers post students anyway, but especially when it comes to behavior, and it's look at my classroom that got torn up, or look at this and look at that. And
I
I
saw your post. I saw that post you posted. You recently did posted that. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's a pet peeve of mine
yeah,
with that. But my thing is too, that happens, right? There are
mhm,
students that might tear up a classroom. You might have desks that get thrown, and I'm the one that has responded to
mhm,
that. I'm the one
mhm.
that goes in when that happens, or did when I was in
Yeah,
middle
when you're in
school.
the classroom. Yeah.
And think about, just take the student out of it, right? Think if you're that angry that you're throwing chairs, like it hurts in my body when I am that angry. Your
Hmm.
fists are balled up. You might even chip a tooth. You're clenching your
Hmm.
teeth so hard. It's not fun. No one wants to feel like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like he didn't do this for fun. I mean, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time. Maybe there's that
Yeah.
point one, but there's a reason. No one wants
Yeah.
to feel that way. And,
Yeah.
when you're not taking it personally, you can realize he wasn't just trying to tear up your classroom because he hates you. He was,
Yeah.
he's got stuff going on, and it's it's just one of those things that I hope
Yeah.
more people can see.
I have this thing where early on, I don't yell when I was a classroom teacher. I don't even now as a administrator. I don't yell at the kids unless it's like a safety thing, like, "Hey, get down!
Like, yeah,
You're
we
up on
have
the
to get
set.
you
Get
down.
down!" Like you have to, yeah. But I don't yell at the kids, and I don't, um, get all flustered and get emotional
Yeah,
because I learned this early on. After those type of days where I was emotionally high and low and high and low, I was exhausted. I was done. Like I was cooked. It was like the bell rang and I'm like,
mhm.
oh, cooked because I was high and low and high and low
Well,
and
that's what
uh,
happens with students that struggle with
mm-hmm.
behavior. You have a big
Yes.
escalation and they crash
Mm-hmm.
because it takes so much out of them.
That's
And it does
right.
for you too. That's a big, when you're doing that emotional up and down, it's
Y-
draining. It's
That's
exhausting.
yeah. That's what I was gonna say. It was like takes so much out of a kid. It took as an adult who could regulate his emotions. It took it would ruin my rest of the day. I can imagine the kids. I could imagine the kids how they would just be like done. They'd be done. And if this happens every single day, every single dang, that's rough. I wonder what that does. That must I don't know.
It's
Does some negative
dysregulating for
damage.
sure.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Can you tell us a little bit? We're moving along quick right here. I feel I'm like, oh man, look at the time. It's
It's a
going.
good conversation.
Yeah. Um, but can you tell us? Can you tell the viewers, right, a little bit about your business? Maybe
Yeah.
they could get in contact with you or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I am on all the platforms, but TikTok's the one that I'm on consistently. And my business is My Education Works. I provide, like I said, one on one advocacy and then parent coaching and consulting. But I also have a group coaching program called Advocacy in Action. And this was a way to create a more accessible advocacy option for parents. So it's
Mhm.
8 weeks of group coaching where we come together and I teach you how to advocate for your child. So we're going through the IEP and we're comparing it to IDEA, but we're not doing it all at once. It's not like, okay, sit down and get a highlighter. Well, we do sit down and
Yeah.
get a highlighter, but we do it in chunks.
Yeah.
And so I have a bunch of graphic organizers and stuff. So we really walk through it and they can see this is the present levels and this is how it connects with the goals, which connects with my services, and this is how accommodations play in. And they can really go through step by step. So that launches um, roughly every 8 weeks, give or take, because I only do 10 at a time because I want to be able to go through
Mm.
the IEP with you. Because, like I said, this is not something that you could just Google. It's kind of
Yeah.
hard to just Google with that. But I also offer the free FBA training, and then I have free consultations as well. So if there's anything that parents have questions about, interventions, IEPs, 504s, behavior, anything like that, I am always open to talk, answer any questions, and support in any way that I can.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Rhea, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate your perspective. I looked at the time and I was like, dang, it's already, I
I know
said
I
40
glanced
minutes, it's
over a
already
minute.
45. I was like, because we were just like going and going and going. And I was like, wait, I want her to talk about her business.
Oh,
I
thanks.
want her, I want her to say her business. But thank you so much for being on the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure talking with you.
You take care.
Thank
Now
you.
don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave.
Okay.
Let me stop real quick.